Hey everyone, John Abrahamson, author of the latest novel, The Golden Hornet, which launched back in February this year of 2023. And I just wanted to take some time to answer all of the questions that you've been submitting. First of all, thank you so much. Your support has been amazing. And now that the novel's been out since February, it's at the point now where a lot of you have either finished the book or are in the process of reading it. And I'm starting to get all those texts and calls and emails and messages on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, asking me some really great questions around the characters and the story and what's next and everything in between. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. It means the world. It tells me that you're engaged, that you find the story interesting, or that you care about the characters. And it's been fun. So keep the questions coming. But what I wanted to do here today is, when I launched the book, I had a portal on johnabrahamson.com/launch. And I asked, hey, if you want to submit some questions for the launch party, that I can take time now to answer them via video, and I'll post it on social media. And with that, when you submit the questions and you provide a review on either Goodreads or on Amazon or both, that not only would I send you autographed vinyl stickers and templates mailed to your house, which I've sent out last month, but also I'd send this large PDF of behind the scenes and all of my notes and everything else. And I've sent that via my newsletter already as well. So if you still want that PDF of behind the scenes, please go to my portal, johnabrahamson.com/launch, and there's still an opportunity for you to submit that. Or you can send an email to newsletter@johnabrahamson.com, and I'll receive that as well. Again, the PDF is, I had intentions of doing 30 pages, but when I found all of the notes and outlines and character development and plot, you name it, I found years and years of stuff that I combined into maybe a 70-plus page PDF. So so I sent that out. So if you were waiting on it and didn't receive it, check your spam. It might be there because it's a new email address at johnabrahamson.com. Or I'm still waiting for you to submit to the portal so I know that it's something that you want. So without further ado, I wanted to answer the questions that came in. Fantastic ones. But the first one that came in was, and let me preface this by saying I'll try to not have any spoilers. If I do, I'll say spoiler alert. But the first question is, do you see another novel being written in this series? That is a great question because my mind never stops, right? And if you've read the book, again with no spoilers, especially if you got to the author's note at the end, you'll know that there's a lot more to the story. Just like after the first one, The White Elephant, there's a lot to the story that's intentionally written with multiple timelines, a lot of backstory with the characters, a lot of questions, a lot of cliffhangers. So there's absolutely more to the story that can be written. I'll say that there are no plans to write that anytime soon. I have other projects that are in flight, including a Christmas novel. And one of my passions, the reason why I got into writing, is filmmaking. I am taking it to the next level, and I am going to launch my next big project is to actually write, direct, and film an independent horror movie. So right now, I've had this idea on Halloween 2020. I know that because I have a notebook with a date and time stamp on it where I started brainstorming this idea. It's called Whispering Pines. And I'm in the process of researching. Right now I have a book that I'm reading. It's called The Science of Horror Films. So it gives you the science of why people either enjoy or despise horror movies, how the science and how scenes are crafted, whether if it's music or camera angles or whatever it is, how they work within horror movies. So it's not just writing it, it's also understanding how they work to get the maximum output for horror. I've read this before and I'm reading it again. It's by this female director who created her own indie film and won a bunch of awards. And I'm reading that. It's very motivational in terms of the whole entire process for indie filmmaking from start to finish. So that's my next project. Is I'm going to write, direct, fundraise, film, try to get distribution, go to a film festival. I'm going the whole gamut here. So my next project will be the film. So I'll be stepping away from this series probably for a little while. Hopefully not as long as between the first gap from the White Elephant to the Golden Hornet of 8 years. That still blows my mind to say that. But yes, there's a lot more to the story, but I'm going to step away from that from now and get to filmmaking and other projects. Next question. Where do you see as potential settings and locations for the next novel in the series? This was actually asked by several folks who submitted questions to the portal. I would say more international. Now, the Golden Hornet, there's a lot in London. And a lot of that was because when I started creating this idea, one of the places I traveled to early on was London for my honeymoon 18 years ago. I've been to London since then, and it just made sense to use that, as well as some of the, without spoilers, some of the ties to the book made sense. But future novels, especially if it was in this series or other series, will have more international landscape, likely Europe. I've been to 15 plus countries now in Europe. So whatever I write, whether if it's this series or future series, there'll be a lot more in Europe. Next question, great question. If the Golden Hornet was to become a TV series or a movie, who would I see playing Tom Bailey, Agent Rose, and Iris? So naturally, when you write a book, you see yourself as in some of the characters and those that you know. If it couldn't be a younger version of myself as Tom, which at this point, it's not going to happen. Pie in the Sky, I would say John Krasinski from the Jack Ryan Amazon series, from A Quiet Place. He's fantastic. He was in The Office. I love John Krasinski. I think he can play the action role very well, but also, he has the nerdy side to him, or he can be. I like his humor. A close second would be Ashley Zuckerman, if you're not familiar with who that is. He was the star of the Dan Brown Lost Symbol. He was the Robert Langdon character on I think it was Peacock last year. He was also in Designated Survivor and that show Succession on HBO. So Ashley Zuckerman, I think he's a great actor. As far as the female roles for Agent Rose or Iris, it's funny. When I came up with Ashley's character over a decade ago, she was named after Ashley Judd. When I was younger, she was my Hollywood crush as a teenager. And then, ironically, my wife Molly has a lot of similarities with Ashley Judd. So when I came up with the character of Ashley, that's where it came from. But then through my relationship with my wife, it kind of morphed into her. Now, I say that with the caveat of with the role and the career that I'm in learning and development in the corporate HR space, there's been a huge shift and a focus to diversity and inclusion over the last 5+ years. With that, I realized that my novel was completely white. All the characters were white. And I wanted to change that. So I made Ashley African American. In fact, one of my characters, Director Freeze in the FBI, I had him. I switched his role into a wheelchair role, so there was some visibility to a disability. So that way, I was trying to be more inclusive. One of the characters, Iris, she's gay. So again, LGBTQ. Again, I just wanted to be inclusive. So in terms of who would play those roles in Hollywood, I would say Lashana Lynch. She's awesome. She was the 007 agent in the new No Time to Die, the latest Bond film. She's fantastic. Emily Blunt, John Krasinski's wife. I think she's a fantastic actress. Emma Stone, she's great as well. So yeah, I would say John Krasinski, Ashley Zuckerman for the male lead, and then maybe Lashana Lynch from 007, and then Emily Blunt, Emma Stone, maybe for Iris. So great question. Love that. I actually had to think hard about that. Next question was more of a comment. I love the Radiohead reference regarding Tom Bailey, the spelling of his name, Tom with an H. Many people don't do that except for the lead singer Tom York from Radiohead, one of my favorite bands. Yeah. So again, when I came up with this idea a long time ago, I was really heavy into Radiohead, and I thought a name of a character is so important, and I thought what better than a unique name like from Tom York from Radiohead, Tom with an H. And then as I was writing his character, I started chuckling because I think even in the book I write just like John with an H, because many times people call me Jonathan and I'm like, no, it's just John with an H, because I don't think Jonathan spells that name with an H. So it worked out where in the novel I put Tom with an H just like John with an H. So yeah, that came up on the spot. Next question. Any plans for a facilitated book club through the vendor that we use at work? So if you're not familiar, my day job, I'm an HR executive at a company. And in my role, I lead a technology platform that is a learning management system and a performance management system. So the question is around any plans for facilitating a book club using the technology that I run. Great question. Love the idea. Many ways to answer that. In fact, we had a book club during peak COVID. We found that keeping that going requires a lot of extra work and maintenance and accountability, which isn't a problem, right? There's always energy somewhere. I'm assuming this question came from someone who is a Steph Curry fan, and based on where it's coming from. So to that person, who should remain nameless, I would think that playlist could be a good feature for that, where we can curate a list of books, whether if it be leadership books and so forth, and create a playlist for that. And we can link them out. Another thing that we did was we met quarterly and we would come up with a book together. So we would create our own cohort. I think back then it was Simon Sinek, maybe the Why book. And we would say, hey, let's read the first 3 chapters, and then we would discuss it and come up with some really thought-provoking questions. So that was fun. But I think the underlying question is, how can we use the technology that my team manages to facilitate a book club? So I will take that as an action item, and we will look into that, especially with our leadership framework rolling out this summer at our company. I think it makes total sense. I know our local libraries, certainly in Charlotte, the app and the technology has improved, so maybe there's something we can do there where we can link our technology to the library, whether if it's with an API or some kind of playlist. So we'll figure that out. Good question. Last question I loved. I had to think through this a lot. So what is the craziest or out of the normal thing that you've done to get over writer's block or find inspiration? So I went back and forth on this one because this last book for me, much like the first book, there was a huge learning curve. The first book, The White Elephant, I really wanted to learn the writing process, to sit down, knock out a book, and learn about what it was like to self-publish and what it was like to sit down and finish a book, right? This second book, the novel, was completely different. And what I learned, one of the big things that I've learned, aside from the fact that editing takes longer than writing the actual first draft, is that writer's block is fake. And what I mean by that, and I've posted blog posts about this previously, before you become an author or while you're in the process of becoming an author for the first time, you think of writer's block as I have no creativity, I have no thoughts, and I just can't think of what to write. And a lot of that is true. But what I've learned is that you can't wait for inspiration. Writing is like going to the gym or exercise. Very rarely are you going to want to wait for, you're not going to want to go to the gym. Writing is the same. You basically need to sit down and force yourself to write even a sentence or a paragraph, and you'll find that the thoughts will start flowing in. So that writer's block, instead of waiting for inspiration, you need to be disciplined and sit down and focus on writing, and then the thoughts start to come. So it's exactly the same. So for me, I would say that walking and hiking for sure, travel gets my creative juices flowing like no other, putting new ideas in your creative bank, if you will. But the number one source of inspiration for me is music. I like every kind of music, classical, hip hop, country. I listen to a lot of music scores and soundtracks. Any possible artist you can think of, I use for inspiration. So, writer's block. Sit down, start writing. Don't wait for inspiration. If you need to step away, like music, or go for a walk and exercise, do that, because fresh air obviously is scientifically proven to help with creativity as well. So, thank you. Great questions. Keep them coming. Send them to the portal. Send me an email. I'm always happy to answer them. And on Goodreads, you can also ask the author. So please continue to share my website, my social media, share it with your friends, my book, and keep reaching out. And even on Goodreads, you can ask the author as well. And thanks so much. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you soon.